often we do have a value style and not necessarily enough with structure. Like, what are some things that you'd set somebody off on, in being able to help them improve or think differently about structure? Is it about writing it all out? Is it about sort of like understanding how storytelling works? Like, how would you coach someone about structure?
So storytelling is something that exists inside structure. So a well-delivered narrative might have many, many instances of story throughout it. These little storytelling arcs are in there, and we certainly work on those. But if you extrapolate it out, there is a narrative arc, a narrative structure that we believe makes more sense for humans. For us, it's kind of generally over 4 steps. Step number 1, you want to we call it an action framework. So you want to give your audience a reason to care. Step number 2, you want to give your audience a reason to believe. Then you want to tell them what they need to know, and then you want to tell them what they need to do. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is the only narrative structure that can work, but I would say that if we start thinking about it this way, when your audience is standing in front of you for any purpose, for what you're about to say, you have to work under the assumption that their gas tank is empty, their give a shit tank. What's big in your world isn't big in their world. What we have to do is we have to connect those 2 worlds together, maybe with something in common. And this is where story could work well. But basically, we have to do 2 things at the beginning of any presentation or talk. We have to open with clarity, this is what we're talking about, and curiosity. And the reason curiosity is so important when it comes to caring is if I stood up and said to you, today I want to talk about purpose, and I want to talk to you about how you can find your why. Well, people have clarity on it, but there's no curiosity because we've heard that drum beaten to death. So we're all like, oh, well, I can tap out now because I know this one, right? It's like a song that you love that you knew all the words for, and then you just kind of got bored of. So, but if I can turn around and get onto stage and say to you, today I want to talk to you about purpose. I want to talk to you about your why. And I want to talk to you about why Simon Sinek's talk was extremely relevant for businesses. It has done more harm than good when it is taken at a personal level, and why personal purpose might be the very, very thing that's holding you back from relevance and maybe actually leading to mental health and depression as well. So now what we've done is we know the clarity on the topic of purpose, but the curiosity, like, who's this guy? Like, it could be starting with a correction response. Like, hey, wait a minute, that's bullshit. Or it could be, okay, let's hear it. But either way, I bought some gas. I bought some give a shit. And provided they somewhat care about this topic, then this curiosity I've added in will make sense. But if they don't care about the original topic, then my job is to make them care about that first. So that's where we want to start with. Then once they do that, so they need to trust either me or my research. So they might trust me by default to the fact that I'm their CEO, or they might trust me because of the bio that was just read. But what I want them to trust me on is for the last year, I've been exploring, going deeper into the topic of personal purpose. I've read countless academic papers on the topic. I've looked at blah, 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 blah. And I discovered something that went so counter to what I thought when I started that it made me rethink the reason I was doing the work in the first place. That's reason to believe. So now and in fact, that little line there about what I went in looking for isn't what I found kind of adds to the feeling that, oh, okay, cool. He didn't go in with an agenda. Then I tell them what they need to know. Then I break it down. We kind of go with Aristotle's rule of 3. So generally speaking, sometimes I do more, sometimes less, but generally speaking, I will now say, so I want to explain to you 3 things that you need to understand about personal purpose. And finally, I want to give you a new model of thought that you can apply to your life that you can take forward. And that is tell them what they need to do. This, by the way, the reason we call it an action framework is because so many of these frameworks are only to do with the delivery of a message. And very, very few of them are to do with the action that happens as a result of the message. And so although it broke the rule of 3, give them a reason to care, give them a reason to believe, tell them what they need to know. It's just an unfinished story. And if you consider some of the other ones, that you've probably heard before, like problem, solution, benefit, or opportunity, solution, benefit, or what, so what, and now what, logos, pathos, and ethos, which is worthy of discussion. Those things, they're all about almost the messaging and the reception of the message, but not about the action afterwards. So we need to start with that in mind.